All right. Welcome to our September Skill Lab, all about HR. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully, everybody is going to meander in as we continue, but I have um, the privilege of introducing our panel. We're changing things around for this one because we have three amazing, we're going to call them HR baddies in the room. And so instead of picking one, we decided to let them all collaborate. And so I'll be asking questions that have come up either during client meetings or articles or from the panel themselves that they hear with clients. And uh, we'll just be doing a little Q&A, and at the end you'll have the opportunity to add your questions. And as usual, use the chat. I will be relaying some of your questions as we are going through this meeting. But first and foremost, I will let our esteemed panel of baddies introduce themselves. Cveta, Tami, Katie, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to lead the conversation and retention, performance, compensation, leadership, and also how do we plan around human capital. So the first question, Tami, I'm going to let you take this one, is how do you write a job description that attracts the right candidates and also helps you filter out the wrong ones?
So my first thing on job descriptions is talking about the intangibles, right? We need a bookkeeper, for example, to have their hard skill education. But when we're hiring for fit, what we really want to focus on is culture, vision, mission, values, expectations. So you're going to want to start every job description with a little bit about your business, so that you can talk about integrity, how you serve, like radical hospitality, or those things that are hard to articulate to a new hire, but also the most important thing that we cannot teach. So that's what I want us to put at the beginning of every job description. And also it helps people feel more aligned when they're coming in. Being aligned with your employer is a big priority for applicants. If they can be behind your mission, if they see the big picture, that's going to help them fit in better. So we're going to first create a job description around the intangibles, and then we're going to set clear expectations. You're going to want to make sure you know your state laws around what needs to be in a job ad. So in Colorado, you have to show your starting salary range. You have to post internally as well as externally at the same time by law. So check your state laws and make sure you know what's required there. And then talk about the duties, not a laundry list of tasks. Um, so scheduling is important, hybrid, remote, you want those things at the top because that's something applicants look at. I recently met with Indeed and talked with them about the applicant experience, and they told me that most of their applicants look on their phone. So we don't
Mhm.
want paragraphs, we want bullet points. And most applicants only read a job description for 14 seconds before they apply. So what do you want at the top? Is really my priorities in a job description and for hiring purposes. Um, that's my first thoughts.
Sveta, Katie, anything to add?
No, that was fantastic.
Oh, excellent.
I agree with her. I think the more transparent you are, I love your mobile friendly because heck yeah, nobody's really, unless you're really at your computer desk, but everybody's on subways or they're, in their car at the stoplight or they're in the kids' parking lot, like dropping your kids off looking for things. So as long as you can make it clear, concise to the point, but transparency is key on everything that you're doing. You don't want to attract the wrong fit and have to get into an interview and you get in there and all of a sudden you're like, well, that's not what I thought this was. And you want it to be clear. I
Mm.
think Tammy's right on.
Great point. So, one of the reasons why job descriptions are so critical is because a lot of us, including myself, have made mistakes hiring too quickly. And so, what are some of those biggest mistakes that people make when they hire an employee too quickly?
Well, um, I have a good one. Good stuff on that. I think that we have clients that we always say hire slow, and fire quickly, but not too quickly. because we have clients that, they get stressed out. We work with small businesses and they get so stressed out so quickly and they're like, we can't do this. And we have great clients. A lot of them, like I mean, myself included, I get in and because I know this, instead of hiring somebody that is not going to be a good employee and onboarding them and just rushing, I would rather step in and do the work myself and take the time to hire the right person versus just, scrambling and hiring somebody who's going to be a pain in my ass in the future. And I'm going to have to fire this person and pay unemployment for them because there's going to be a problem. And that's actually something I was going to bring up as well, because I get that question about, they're within their 90-day intro period and I could just fire them and we're at will. And like from day one, they're an employee. So FYI, like you can't, they're an employee from day one. So they have to follow the process on firing them. So I think the entire thought process of, the mistakes of hiring too quickly is just that whole process. There's a million things that can go wrong. And you have to think about the future of this employee, not
Mhm.
just the immediate, I need help. Like there's temp agencies, there's, other options that you can use versus bringing somebody on as an employee that is just not a good thought at all. And then the firing quickly, not too quick, don't pass a problem around your company. If they're not good in this role, they're probably not going to be great in the next role. And if they make a complaint between the part of they're not doing great, we should fire them, and you wanting to actually fire them, and in between that, they say, hey, I don't know, somebody made an inappropriate remark to me. Now, when you try to fire them, it's going to be seen as retaliation. So um, get rid of them when they're originally not doing a good job. So yeah, that whole thing.
Um, I really like where you went on the whether they're here for 1 day or 30 days, they're still an employees. So the moment they sign that offer letter, they are an employee. What is the right process around dismissing someone? Like, how much do you have to document?
That's I mean, these are great questions. Um, More than you think. So actually, my team just went through for the first time, an unemployment process, which is really eye-opening for them. And we have a great percentage in beating unemployment claims. And sometimes we have clients that just do not get it. And we share with them, the questions that these people ask, they are on the employee side. We are the big bad business owners, and it's the poor, sad employee. And they're going to ask very, very specific questions. What exact policy in the employee handbook that they signed, show me the wording of what this person did. And like the questions like, in the last written warning that the employee got, was she told that she was going to be terminated in the next conversation? Like these are specific things that they want to see. It's not like you just show up and say, hey, I fired them and I told them they were going to get fired. Like it's very clear stuff. So, I mean, you need to be very specific, very measurable goals. Like
Mhm.
if they show up late after 8 a.m. in the next 30 days, we will potentially give them another final warning or they will be terminated. And then you need to document that. It's like they want to give everybody unemployment. No one wants to work. So you got to
I'll
prove everything.
I'll agree and just add on to what Katie said about the last part of the documentation. In any case, even for performance conversations or rewards, it is really great to document. And it doesn't have to be in this official, like, let me give you a template that you have to fill out. Email conversations, like, hey, I just want to recap this conversation with you. That can also be held too, that you can show in unemployment. Or even having this, no, I'll speak for the three of us up here. Like, nobody wants to go through an entire rehiring process. Like when you hire somebody on, you spent all that time, all that money. It's thousands of dollars for a cost per hire that you want to save. If you've brought the right person in, you want to invest every little bit of your soul to make sure that they succeed. And you want to document these tough conversations because it is you can hire anyone in the world to do a job, but you're really looking for this culture fit. You're looking for all these pieces for people to succeed. And you want them to succeed. This is your business. They're the face of your business. They're your employees, and documenting every part of it, even wins, is really, really huge because I think when it comes down to it, when people start to see this random email of like, hey, I just wanted to confirm our conversation, you're like, whoa, 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 where'd that come from? Then it starts to create this environment of, you want psychological safety, you want to make sure all these things, you just start going down the spiral. But I think as long as you're having the open communication, like Katie is saying, documenting properly both wins, losses, connecting it, your onboarding experience, I know we'll talk about that, but your onboarding experience is really huge because you want everyone to come in with the same goal going forward.
I think that email that comes in unexpectedly is when a company finally hires an outsourced HR or brings on HR into their company that tells them, you
Hmm.
haven't been documenting anything, please start
Yeah.
documenting. And then that first email start being issued. So,
Yeah.
Tammy, this one's for you because we've been talking about it a lot and this concept of the unicorn employee or unicorn hire. I think we've all hoped that the person that we bring in to work for us is the perfect person, the perfect employee, and they're autonomous and they do not need a lot of guidance and they seem to know everything without us having to explain it. So,
They
do
can
they
read our
exist?
minds.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ESP is a real skill. Do they exist? Do unicorns exist when it comes to
So,
hiring?
as an HR professional, I could stand on a soapbox in a town square and rant for an hour about how unicorns don't exist, guys. They just don't.
Don't tell that to my 5-year-old. She's going to be utterly disappointed.
Mm.
Yes, yeah. She probably doesn't attend many HR conferences or anything. She'll be fine.
Not yet.
But
She
like,
may be the one in the seat though at some point. Her personality. Yeah, she may be right there.
we really, when you talk to clients about what they're looking for, they often just go, I'm just looking for that unicorn. No, no, no. Um, in small businesses and in work in general, like a lot of people have to wear a lot of hats. That is something we can find, people who can wear a lot of hats. But your perfect avatar, like I had a client go through the trouble of creating an avatar, including animation, to explain to me their unicorn very clearly. And, I've hired people close to the unicorn, and then later, true story, had a client say to me, yeah, but her voice grates on me throughout the day. She's doing great everywhere else, but the tone of her voice that she can't change. Yeah, she just wasn't the unicorn. Well, guess what? She interviewed with that voice. I'm really confused why we have a problem today. So, if your avatar for what you're looking for is so specific, you probably need to pull out a little bit on your views, right? And again, go back to the intangibles because if we are standing in a field of stallions and looking for the unicorn, we're just going to keep looking. We can take too long. We can lose good talent because we're taking 2 months to make a decision. Guess what? Job finders are finding jobs. That's all there is to it. They're getting jobs. We can't delay too so long that we lose the potential good talent, right? So are
Mhm.
they capable? Stallions are very capable. Stallions have longevity. Stallions are workhorses. They can go huge distances. Unicorns are just pretty, okay? And maybe magical, but can we expect any employee to be magical? No, we really cannot. Um, so I want to just please, please take the unicorn out of your head and start thinking more practical. Are they coachable? Do they have grit? Are they the kind of people who like to just get shit done, right? Because often that's what we want our unicorn to do. And reading your mind is not a thing. We cannot expect an employee to be able to do that. We have to actually set clear expectations.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, what, Katie?
I mean, I'm guilty of that myself. I don't know why. I don't know why anybody can't read my minds, which is really uh, because there's a lot going on here, and like I don't get it. But I do have to re-add on to that. We just did a webinar about this, but job descriptions versus like what somebody actually needs to have versus what like you think they need to have. And
Mhm.
it's just like I don't need to have a secretary with a bachelor's degree. Like, unless I'm trying to pay that secretary $80,000 a year. Like, I want a secretary with like 2 years of experience of being a secretary. They don't even need to have an associate's. They could have a GED for all I care. So, like, adjusting the job descriptions to match like what I'm actually looking for, and like
Mm.
making it a low entry barrier entry so I can get somebody quickly enough that would make sense.
Mm.
And a
So,
low barrier entry for interviewing, even because
yes.
you don't know anything until you meet somebody anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You
Katie.
know, I'll add to that piece where I've been a part of a company and you take on when you're in this role, you take on and the position has evolved and this person has done way more than their current job description that hasn't been updated. So when that employee leaves or transitions up into a new role, you're then looking for that role itself to say, well, this person did this. And it was like, yeah, but that's not what the role actually was. So that's why this unicorn thing starts to come out. And it's like, well, I need them to have X, Y, Z. And then you come in and say, well, they've had 7 years, 8 years of experience with our company. So they have this institutional knowledge. And so then this unicorn comes up and they have to have all these things. You have to go back to the job description and the key things that you really need and want. And so I've seen this happen so many times too, Tammy and Katie, and where you're looking for that unicorn because you're comparing it to one other person, where it's like stop comparing it to the person and compare it to what the job really needs to be.
Mm. Great point. So, one of the most important human systems to find or not find that stallion or unicorn, whatever lands on your front porch on the day of the interview is the interview questions. So rapid fire by the panel. Give me your two favorite interview questions. I'll start with Katie and whoever wants to go after. But I want two of your favorite interview questions. And I know Tammy will be sharing a tool on the wrap up of this panel.
Well, the first one is your manager comes to you and gives you a task that needs to be done by tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at 3 p.m. in the day. And so you're like, okay, great, I'm going to get started on that. And then so your second level management comes to you and says, here's a task. I need you to get this done by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And it's now 3:30 in the day. How do you handle that type of situation, or how have you handled it in the past?
Okay.
That's my first one. And that's a behavioral type of question. There's situational behavioral. And then that's my first one. You can go on to the next. Let me think of my second.
Okay.
I
Tammy.
can share one. Tell me about a time when you made a difference at work,
Okay.
because it's going to show us what they think making a difference looks like. And if they're not going to buy into the big picture, they just list tasks. I don't know. My job made a difference. I answered the phones and talked to the customers, and I did APAR. Like if they list tasks at me, they weren't invested in that position. If they tell me a personal story about how they impacted a coworker or a customer, they were invested in actually serving the customer. They were invested at a different level. That's why
Mm.
I like that one.
And I love how you framed it because I think that that question often comes up in like mid-level to upper level management, but very few people think of asking it to basically the ground workers. And that's where you can see if somebody can grow with your company in the long run.
Mhm.
Sveta, what's yours?
I have a funny one as my second one, but my first one of my good ones is share time you led through significant change, whether you're a manager or an employee, because it lets me know how are you going to take change? How can you adapt? Can you not? Do I need to give you more support? How did you handle it? And I say this to this team because I like to change things up because sometimes it's too serious, but I asked them if they could be any kitchen utensil, what would they be and why? And I remember someone asked me that question and I thought they were crazy, but it really made me feel better because I tried to take a conversation approach and I told them that I was the spork because I like to I can maneuver and work through anything that you give me. So whether it's like being a spoon, but and it honestly, it is interviewing is so hard for people. And even if you're whether you're the interviewer, interviewee, it's tough and you have to make it a conversation piece. So while there are problem solving things and culture and forward thinking, whatever you want to do, my advice is to really make it a conversation because they are humans and it's sometimes you have to meet them where they're at too because you kind of have the upper hand, but they too have it too. They need to find that they're the fit. So
Nice.
I have a
that's mine.
second question. I have my second one.
Go.
Yeah.
This is a great one because Gen Z is killing me. Um, when do you think it's best to communicate in writing and when face to face?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
Good.
for sure.
And then document.
I document it, all of it.
And if you know you're going to be passive aggressive, please don't do it in written form because nobody's going to care. So,
Yeah,
No, because I'm
yeah.
gonna show up at your house. I'm gonna fly there. Like I don't have time to do this. This is just fucking my house.
So for my second one is for a leadership position, but I do ask it for all positions because I want to know, I want to hear the answer no matter what level the position is. So tell me about a leader that you've experienced in your life that made an impact on you, and what did you learn from them?
mm,
That's really great. I love
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
a entry level position, they're not going to be leading teams. It tells us how they like to be led.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Gives us some insight on how they like to be communicated with as well. Um, so and it places leadership as an experience. So I like that too.
Very cool. All right. So after you're basically identified your stallion through an amazing job posting and you have interviewed them. Now you make your offer. And so, in my opinion, one of the things that sets the temperature with that new hire is going to be their experience walking into your company, whether it's a virtual walk-in or a physical walk-in, and what that first day up to the first 90 days is going to look like. So, Tammy, this one's for you. What does a strong 90-day onboarding process look like, and why is it critical to retention?
So I pulled up some stats because I like numbers. 30% of employees leave their job in their first 90 days. So I want to say that for all of us, because when it happens to us, we feel like failure, like I just picked the wrong person.
Mhm.
And we need to know the business reality of that, right? And having a structured, strong, organized onboarding plan increases retention by 82%. And then I like to talk with my clients about the 80-20 rule. When you're planning your onboarding plan, on day one, 20% of that person's success is on the person, and 80% of that person's success is on us. And during the 90-day period, those percentages flip. But on day one, all this person's got to do is show up on time, be willing to learn. But whether they're prepared after 90 days to do this position was our job, not theirs. So
Mhm.
really be planful and create an effective onboarding program. Also, onboarding programs increase productivity between 52 and 60% just because we planned to train somebody. So the way I structure those is I get a laundry list from the client of what this person's going to need to learn and the tasks, but also software, learning our culture, getting to know how the operation works, the big overview stuff. And then we break it down by 30, 60, 90 days. And we decide on each item, do they need to be familiar with this piece or proficient at this piece by day 30? And certainly, if we're hiring for hard skills as well, we expect people to walk in knowing how to use Microsoft products, for example. So some of them are proficient in the first 30 days, but it breaks down the priorities of what we want to talk to this person about and what they're retaining. And we share that whole plan with the employee. So rather than somebody walks in and we go, here's your job, go. Like, what? Yeah, we all use Excel, but how does this company use it? How does this company want to save files? How does, what are our SOPs? So in order to create the plan, you have to have SOPs. You have to have expectations that they're not going to learn it in 30 days and be proficient in 30 days. And you have to share that with them. The other key important piece is regular check-ins with this employee. How is it going? Here's your 30-day plan. Let's just go over the 30 days. Boom, boom, boom. Are you feeling proficient at these? Are you feeling familiar with how we do it? Um, and in the 30, 60, 90-day check-in, and then I recommend a 6-month check-in or quarterly check-in, depending on the complexity of the job. And then, of course, annual review time. But this person will probably not be performing 100% the way you wanted them to perform for 6 to 12 months.
Mhm.
And we need to acknowledge reality in our processes. That's a key point in my experience. I'm eager to hear what Katie and Sveta think too.
I can go. I love all of that. Actually, I was taking some notes because I'm always learning something new. I think what something is because we're so small, I think something great that I'm still able to do, which I take advantage of, is that I love being able to have them mirror what I'm doing. So I let them get on live with me, watch what I'm actually doing on a daily basis, and have them mirror me and like shadow me regularly. So like I let them come on meetings with me. I want them to see what I do on client meetings. I want them to
Mhm.
see, back end things, learn about the products, all that stuff. And then also on day one, I recommend that on day one that's when you actually put on the calendar a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90, like send them the invite that day. So there's doesn't get lost in the craziness of what happens. So I love all of that. And those are my two additional items that I recommend. So if you're capable or able to do so, letting them really get that intimate time with you and like
Mhm.
learn from you. There's nobody better to learn from.
If it's
So
possible, I know that we have
yeah.
some mental health professionals in this room. I'm sure that when you're working with clients one-on-one, having somebody
You say health professionals?
mental health professionals.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously
Yes,
not that type of situation, but if you when you have to, if it's possible, any of the things that you're doing
yes,
that you don't need to be doing one-on-one with your patients,
100%.
having them mirror you. So
Can I just quick add as well? I love to establish the concept of internal customer care in the is part of our culture and that we serve each other. And part of shadowing me means because I'm a small business, like get to know your customer. I'm your biggest customer today. Get to know me. What are my preferences? How fast am I going to move? So I love that as well, Katie, the shadowing piece and talking about how the roles support each other for us to all support the bottom line and our customer so that we can implement more. I just want to be helpful to everybody, and doing my job well is the first thing I can do to be helpful. And saying those things to the new employee, doing your job well is your first job for internal customer care, but then look for other ways to support us all. And we're going to support you too. So that's one of my little things I like to talk about.
Awesome.
I agree with all those. I think the only additional thing that I would add is to help them understand the why. I think when people know their why of the value they bring in, what is the company about? Why are they here? Why are these decisions? And I know there's some things you can say and can't say, but if they understand the why behind everything and encourage conversation, encourage the asking why is the why, and having that dialogue, I think you get a lot more people that can back you up and do what you need them to do quicker when they really understand it, because then there's some context behind it too.
Yeah.
ask why sometimes. Don't always ask why.
Know the why though. Know the why.
No,
I
though.
know the why. You don't always got to know the why. There's a
Um,
method.
if it's okay with the three of you, because we've kind of answered some of those other questions under onboarding and retention, and I'm looking at the time and I want to, we still have a lot to cover. So I want to shift to performance, accountability, and culture. Uh, I think if, we've all had stories to where, we've at some point in time made the comment, maybe not all of us, but I know that some of us have made the comment of this company is like a big family and we all know each other and we all love each other like we're siblings or family members. I'd love to know, how do you set and maintain those clear expectations with employees, especially in a small business environment where you see each other or virtually or physically on a day-to-day basis, and you get that closeness, and which makes difficult conversations very, very
Mhm.
difficult and complex.
I love to lean into this one myself. I know I saw some head shaking over there. I think that when you start off in their onboarding, I know I don't want to go back to that, but you need to set clear expectations of your expectations of them, but also allow them to give you expectations of yourself as their supervisor and their team. Because again, going back to the why are you here? What's the expectation of your job? You need to let them know what their job description really entails. And I know these are tedious things, like you should know this, and they should, but things may have changed or somebody may have misinterpreted something. So when you're setting an expectation that's clear, have them repeat it back to you like, hey, do you understand that? What do you think that means? And I think when you set that, you have clear guidelines, but also do constant touch bases, weekly, monthly cadences. We talk about 30, 60, 90. don't just wait till the 30-day or the 60-day or the 90-day, and then all of a sudden you have three documentations that are piling up saying you didn't do your job. Even in performance, I know we're going to talk through that, but performance evaluations, like nothing you bring to that table when you do a performance evaluation or a touch base quarterly, whatever your cadence is, should ever be a surprise. Because if it's a surprise, then you need to reflect back as a leader and an owner that you didn't help guide your employee. Because when something happens, you do not wait for 3 days, or if you're fuming that something happened, you need to address it in those moments. Take time. But I always say this, and this is one of the most valuable things I've ever learned as a leader and as a parent. I will say this in all things friendships, relationships, whatever, that the way that you come at somebody, the way that you address a situation will determine whether they come back to you again. And that means, are they going to hide it? Are they going to be too scared? Will they quit on you? Do they think you're going to react a certain way? So you need to understand yourself as the tone that you set to when you address a situation, because that's going to say a lot. You could be as pissed as you want to, or you can, whatever. Accidents happen, things happen. These are people, speak to them like you want to be spoken to, but also understand that they might. Culturally, there's cultural differences. There's your day is different. Things may have happened in your world. So it's setting that clear expectation, having constant touch bases, asking the questions. But, how are you? Or the vague questions, they're just going to say things are good. You need to come in as a leader and ask specific key questions. How is this project? How is this specific thing going? Did you have any hardships in it? That's what my advice would be.
I love that. And I will also add to that to where it's always easier to set the tone with a new hire than to get into bad habits with an employee that you've
Mhm.
had for a while and then having to make the change. I know that we've all been through that and it's extremely difficult. So, Tammy, two-part question for you, and I'll combine the next two of I want to know what the best practices are in handling difficult conversations and within the realm of performance management. And also, when do you know you've given enough support and you know that it's time to liberate that person back into the marketplace?
Yeah, so I assume this whole call is going to be the HR people going, she's right the whole time. Sveta's right. Like we set the tone. We should coach to why. So I always start those conversations with curious.
Mhm.
I have a little mantra that I carry around and talk about in my work with clients all the time that is, I'm going to automatically assume that every employee came to work to do a good job.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to approach those conversations with, on that assumption, what's going on with you? That's things are not going well. We've had these, and list the things that we need to talk about. But my first question is, are you okay? What's going on?
Mhm.
And that doesn't change the facts or where the conversation goes down the road if it goes towards performance documentation and stuff. But because we start with curious, might be surprised at what we learn. I had a great employee worked for a client for 4 years, suddenly was having attendance issues. Her ops manager wanted to just terminate her. She'd never had a problem in 4 years. We found out that she had become homeless
Oh,
2 days before leaving a domestic violence situation.
Mhm.
Now, we needed to talk about attendance. Don't get me wrong, that didn't change the conversation's outcome necessarily. But when you find out that this 4 year amazing employee is in this space, you might support them a little differently for a few weeks to retain them. And
Mhm.
by the way, that because I work with small business owners, it was a lovely thing. The business owner said, here's my credit card, Tammy, get her a week stay in a hotel so she knows she's safe for the next week. Like that business owner went above and beyond, but do you think that employee will ever not be an excellent employee for him in the future?
mm-mm.
Because
Oh
we
yeah,
started with
just
curious,
Yeah.
right?
it's good.
And do what we can. And so, these tardies are, what can we do to make sure you get here on time? She was going to her gym to shower, to be clean for work. And that was delayed, then there were a couple days of commute stuff was from there, blah, blah, blah. It was only a couple days, but we were going to just trash a 4-year employee over that. So we're going to start with curious always, and we're going to explain how the impact of the performance deficiency impacts the team and the customer, and coach to the why. And then we're going to say what commitments do you want to make, and what can I do to support those commitments? What do you need? Because often they don't need anything else. But what if they need, yeah, my computer's shutting down 6 times a day unexpectedly. That's something I'd want to know if I own the computer, you know. So we want to start with curious, talk about the facts, talk about the impact, and then be very clear. So another of my little phrases that I say a million times a day is clear as kind. I think as an employer, if somebody's job is on the line and I don't tell them, I'm doing them a disservice. They need to know. So you can't pussyfoot around this stuff. You gotta just say the thing. And so the phrase that I use as an HR professional is, if improvement is not immediate and sustained, you will be choosing to no longer work here.
Mm.
That's good.
Because if you do your HR processes through and you document them through, say,
Mhm.
written warning or verbal warning, written warning, final, if at final this person leaves not knowing their job is on the line, we're not doing our job. But at the end of the day, if we do our HR processes, whether they leave us or not is not our choice. It is theirs. Go ahead, Katie.
What was that last line you just said? The whole line that you just said?
Katie's writing it
If
down.
if improvement is
No, I love it because I've got,
yeah. So because I worked for AAA, I had this phrase memorized. Improvement must be immediate and sustained. If improvement is not immediate and sustained, further disciplinary action up to and termination will occur. I type that all the time on every document. It's in red in my written warnings. But I say out loud, if improvement on these issues is not immediate and sustained, you will be choosing to no longer work here.
I love that. And I tell my clients all the time, the best way to terminate an employee is to have them terminate themselves. And that is the safest way for you as a business owner because pissed employees are the ones that sue you. Those are the
Yep.
ones that file EEOC charges. Those are the ones that come after you for everything. So having an employee that did not know that they were doing anything wrong and you fire them, that is the person that's going to come after you and make your life miserable. So exactly what Tami was just saying with the let them know that they're doing things wrong, and Sveta too. Let them know that they're doing things wrong from the beginning, documenting those things, and let them fire themselves because they know something's wrong. They know they're not doing a good job, and this is not a surprise. Like Susie, we talked to you 3 times about you're doing a bad job. Like this is not a surprise. Like so, this is the last time I'm telling you this, and goodbye.
Mhm.
Versus like the surprise. So yeah, let them fire themselves, and then that's it.
And
So
when we
yeah,
feel like it's not our choice anymore, it's ease for the business
yeah.
owner,
Yep.
right?
Feels a lot more comfortable. It's just like I
Yeah.
gave you an option and you elected to take the latter,
You
which
need
was
to follow these SOPs or you'll be choosing to no longer work here. Yeah. So HR gets to say all the hard things a lot. But it's our job to be clear. And that's one of the
Yes.
clearest things I can tell somebody. And I know generally that means that person starts looking for a job.
great.
Mm.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Preferably to resign before I have to have that conversation, ideally.
Also, if you have to fight an unemployment claim, uploading a transcript of a meeting that says that is really powerful.
Which FYI, Colorado is a one-party consent state, so you are able to
Yes,
record without anybody else knowing. So
that's correct.
yeah.
But also, it's always good practice to have something
Oh,
like
yeah. I
that
always tell people they're
is
being recorded.
everything or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
you can, but if you have somebody that's a little unwell, you don't need to. Just
okay.
say.
Mhm.
But
So
yeah, you
I'll
should.
quickly try to answer the second half. I'm going to share a tool. I created a little checklist of how to decide if it's time because I think most of our clients keep people too long because we didn't have enough documentation or we didn't go through the process. So there's a checklist, but basically business owner, you, leader, you, how much of your time are you spending dealing with this person, coaching them, redoing the work, somebody else having to follow and double check their work? That's one of the biggest things is how much of everybody else's time does this retention cost us in productivity, including the leader's time, which is the most valuable time because we spend more money for those hours. So that's my key thing. But I have a little document that Aggie will send out with the tools. It's a little checklist to help you make those decisions.
Cool. I'm going to take a quick hiatus and see if anybody in that is here today has any questions about anything that has been said so far. Becky, go.
Hey, everybody. So, whoops, spilling my coffee. Um, One of the things that I constantly, I know Tammy shared this answer with me, so Tammy, sorry I'm asking live, but maybe somebody else has the same question. What, how probable of a verbal conversation can we document that then becomes the employee's record? Does that make sense? If we're having a tough conversation, like for instance, an employee came over to my house a weeknight last week to have a very hard conversation. So is it okay for me to just go back and document what we talked about?
Yeah, you can restate it even in in an email. I heard you. This is what I heard. I wanted to follow up, keep the open door, keep an open conversation.
Okay.
Your email to her or however you um connect with your team, I would highly recommend this in the email, but put in an email saying like, hey, this is what I heard from this conversation. Is there anything that I've left out that you wish to add? It opens the door if there is anything else or if there's not, but that part you can put that in an email and just send it back. So that is considered documentation.
Yeah,
Okay.
that email the employee and say,
Yes.
thank you for meeting with me last night or whatever. Here's
Hmm.
what I heard. You committed to, I committed to. Is there anything else I can do to help you through this issue or whatever? I
Mhm.
like the
Hmm.
word commitments. I ask employees what are they going to willing to commit to make this better, stuff like that. But yeah, that's exactly my advice to you, Sveta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an email, is
Any
it ever acceptable to not do an email and we just, type up a Word document and say we met and here's what happened? I know it's probably a little weaker, but
It is weaker, and I like to, if I'm sending one of those emails, I like to get confirmation that they've read it as well.
Mhm.
mm,
I agree.
So, and
Because then you didn't make something up.
that's
Yes.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
mm,
yeah, I agree.
okay.
And you never want anything to be a surprise. Like
No,
even thinking about this employee and they're a human, we lead from a people lens. Even this whole panel is you just want to be sure that you're very clear in the conversation that you had and you heard, because maybe you may have missed, maybe they have made said something off, or this is what I heard you say, confirm this. And it
mhm.
is, I always put things in writing.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
Any other questions before we mosey
Good
along?
question.
Okie dokie. Well, I have a ton because we over prepared as usual. So Katie, this one's for you, and because your tagline is you're the intermediary or you're the protection between Google and your attorney to prevent people from getting too far down the legal battle, is what kind of documentation protects both the business and the employee in like situations where it's tough for both parties?
Um, exactly. I think what we were just saying. So I think, I mean, recordings are best. And like, I don't mean doing it. Like I was just saying, like, you can tell them. Of course you can. However, if it comes down to you or the employee, you need to protect yourself in the business. And that's the bottom line. Like you've built this business. This is your business and you got to do what you got to do. So, yes, recordings are really important. Obviously, if you're not in Colorado, you need to make sure that you're aware of what, if it's a two-party consent or a singular consent. But recordings are going to be the best, period. And then, I mean, documentation for, uh, not, there's laws about, internal investigations. We're not bringing attorneys into internal investigations. These are conversations between employees and, management. So if the employee shows up with their attorney, it's going to be thank you, but no thank you. Like this is like, we're having a conversation between her she's late to work. Like this is not goodbye. Those kinds of things, like that's not appropriate.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, documentation, training the managers. Like we train the managers heavily. And, small businesses are like, we're all best friends and we love each other. And, it's great. But when I first started in HR, I tell everybody this. I had a HR generalist I worked underneath, and they were like, you sure you want to be in HR? And I was like, yes, I think. And she's like, well, reality is that you can't sit with the people your age and talk about like what you did last weekend and like the party you went to and like who you're hooking up with and because you might have to fire that person tomorrow. And I was like, oh, like, wow. So I like didn't get to hang out with anyone my age. I couldn't be friends with them. And when I train managers, I say, you can't be friends with your employees at that level at work. And a lot of them have grown up with like they were employees working alongside them
Mhm.
last year and now they're the manager. And like it's hard, you got to create that boundary and get respect in that area, or you're not going to be able to manage your team, which
Mhm.
is really hard. So learning how to get the boundary and then documentation always.
You know, I would just want to add to that, Katie, because I think you brought up a really good point about like being peers and friendships, because that forms. This is some of your best relationships happen. And like my friend Marquise here, he is a co-founder of Face HR. We both are partners in this HR space, but I also found that growing up when I was an RA and like my life, I actually had conversations with my friends to say, please don't put me in a position that I have to hold you accountable,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, sometimes you may need to be the bigger person and just say, I value you as a human, as a person, all of these things, but please don't put me in a position because I still need to hold you accountable like I do everyone else. And again, accountability piece, you set the boundaries, set your limits, and hopefully they don't put you in an uncomfortable situation. But if they ever do, then you've already had that convo to say, I have to do it.
Mm. Expectations and accountabilities.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, compensation and compliance. Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody, Sveta finally has questions assigned to her, which is where the excitement comes in. I think one of the most anxiety-inducing part for a small business owner is to decide what are you going to pay for that stallion or that unicorn. So of course there's an entire financial plan that you can do and say, okay, I'm going to pay this person this much, but you also want to be competitive because many other people are probably courting that same person. So, first question is for Tami, and then we're going to shift to a more compliant lens. So, Tami, how do you approach compensation and salary transparency as a small business? Oh, you're on mute.
Of course, then it took a hot second for my mouse to wake up. I apologize. First, you want to do your research. And I just want to say the US Bureau of Labor and Statistics is the worst place to go for your research.
I was gonna
Um,
say, please don't say it's the best because that's
Well,
no. And I do
There's
have
a lot of
clients who are
reading.
like, well, this is what the government says. Well, the government pulls salaries. They require that employers report salaries and titles to them regularly. But they don't differentiate between a marketing manager at Nike to a
Mm.
marketing manager at a three-person marketing firm. So you
Hmm.
got to do your research based on your zip codes as well. And I personally use the job search sites because their data is from actual job postings in your zip codes. I think that's
Mhm.
important. So you do your research, but also I always encourage employers to be very transparent. There's laws around being transparent in Colorado around starting salary ranges, job descriptions need to have salary ranges on them by law, and we need to keep them for up to 3 years. And so that we can prove we've been transparent. And that's part of why we have to post internally. But also, I also encourage people to be transparent about their books with people. So I think it's important to set expectations with employees of how often raises will be given, including new hires, right? Um, I had a young employee say to me, "Well, I've been here 2 quarters, and it's my understanding I should receive a raise quarterly."
hmm.
And that 10% is the average.
I would like to work for that company.
Yeah.
Well, Colorado State University prepared him for this. And I love
Mm,
CSU, but also he was just fresh out of college, and I had to explain
yeah.
to him um, the way budgets work and how
Hmm.
businesses
Hmm.
review their budget and plan annually. And so he can expect those conversations annually, right? But sharing with employees what it costs the business to keep the lights on, for example,
Hmm.
is always really awakening for an employee to hear that we have to produce $85,000 a month before I can even consider giving you a raise because they see the money coming in or they think they know what the money is. And then the other thing that I think is really important is doing total compensation sheets for each employee at annual review time.
Yes.
Show them what their benefits cost, what we're paying into Social Security on their behalf. All of those things are expenses the business incurs on their behalf. And being transparent in that way helps those compensation conversations go. And I do have clients that offer a total compensation sheet with their offer letter too.
Mm.
That's really smart.
So it's impactful in getting the right talent, but also showing what we actually spend to employ you. So all the
Mhm.
transparency I'm a business owner too. It feels weird to share with your employees your financials. But in such a small business, they need to know how they're contributing and they need to know the realities of the financials that you're dealing with. And no, 10% raise is not common. Come on. Let's like that would not be like a business would bankrupt itself with just that one kid working for them. That's just not
Mhm.
sustainable. So
Yeah.
I like to use the word sustainable also in my conversations. A sustainable wage for this position is,
Yeah.
for
I,
example.
I put in the chat that transparency doesn't mean you have to share all of the details and
No,
all of the numbers. You don't have to present your employees with your P&L.
no.
One of the ways that we have shown transparency is to do a pie chart of where your expenses are allocated so that your employees know. The main issue with employees is they think that the business owner is rolling in it. We're all McScrooge, and we're in our little penthouse rolling in the dollar bills, and that's often not the case. So, as much as we wish we would, it's often not the case. So, I think that transparency is extremely important.
So I'll give you
Hmm.
an example. When I hired my first HR specialist full time to join UNIcycle, I let her know that I paid myself 20 cents more an hour than I pay her.
Yeah.
Mm.
I needed to value
Oh.
her years and bring in good talent, and I wanted to.
Hmm.
But this is how much I make.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So moving to compliance, uh, Sveta, I'm going to throw you off because I'm going to combine those three questions, but in a bigger sense is what does compliance mean for a small business? Like what are some of the things that you have to be looking out for?
Mhm.
Whether it's laws or even like from the hiring standpoint, like what do you have to make sure that you have in order to protect yourself as an employer and also protect the employee?
I would say I know we are limited on time, but I'll leave it to the little buckets. You need to understand what compliance is to just remain compliant in all states and federally, like understanding the difference that you may have some federal laws that go into play, but you need to also understand the states because sometimes, just like we have wage and hour classification, so you may have a federal minimum wage, but your state wage could be higher than the federal. And so understanding that while there may not be a post that goes out there, or like the federal government isn't giving all this information out, you need to also be cognizant of what is in your state. And if you have remote employees, hybrid employees, understanding that going into 2026, even at the end of the year, when you start to like audit your systems, I would give you, if I could tell you to do anything today that you should leave with this, obviously we're very people focused today, but from a compliance standpoint, audit your systems. That means the system that you use, that means your pay scales, that means your end of year reporting. You need to do things quarterly so you don't have to do so much at the end of the year because the end of the year it could rack up. You per one employee, if you file wrong, that's hundreds of dollars per one employee. And then just understanding all of the laws, I would say yes, federal, but understand all of the laws in your state, in your city. Denver City, I live in Colorado. Denver City minimum wage is different than some parts of Colorado. And so do not just rely on federal, do not just rely on things coming to you as an employer. And then also do not rely on just AI in your chat GPT because there have been many, many lawsuits that have gone into play and lawyers have lost cases because they said, well, ChatGPT told me. ChatGPT is just like a tool. It is a tool that you use, but you need to confirm. And I will say, while it's so helpful having human knowledge like us here too, you cannot replace the knowledge that you have, Becky. You run a wonderful business. I can put anything into ChatGPT, but I know if I call you, you're gonna be like, "That's shit, Cveta. This is actually what it is." And so think of that as the employer too. Like you need to lean on experts in the field as well, because we are the ones, you amongst this group are the ones that really know what's going on in the world.
Hmm. I'll
You
add
are the confirmation.
I'll add something to that because I made that mistake of like, especially in employment contracts, make sure that you are looking at exempt versus non-exempt. Make sure that you're looking at different state laws. Like, for example, if you're hiring people in California, Washington State, New York, New Jersey, they have very stringent laws and minimum requirements in terms of minimal pay in order to meet that exempt status, and also role exemptions. I mean, there is like 3 or 4 different things that you have to look at to decide whether your employee is an exempt and non-exempt. And also same goes between 1099 and W-2. So that's a whole different discussion that we can have in terms of compliance. If you tell somebody what to do, how to do it, when to do it, they are not a 1099, they are a W-2. So be careful about how you are setting them up in your HRIS system or whatever it is you use to run payroll.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, 2 more questions that we have time for before I open the floor. We'll move on to leadership and organizational health. And again, broadly, and this question is for the entire panel, is what makes a good leader? Like, how do you know as an employer that you are a good leader from an HR standpoint?
Ooh, I have bullets on and bullets on this, but I just want to a word that I'm very passionate about, and is vulnerability. I think as a leader, there's also a time to use vulnerability and a time not to, but I am so behind this word that if people understand who you are with vulnerability, empathy, like you connect to employees. And I know again, I lead from a people lens, but being vulnerable, I have had my best leaders because they were really true to who they were. And I know who I was working with.
Mm.
I want to piggyback on that for sure. This is a recent situation for sure. And I realized that I really needed to get through to my team because there was just, items that were slipping through the crack and they were just not with the program. And one of them brought to my attention. They were like, it's coming from the top down. And I was like, well, obviously not from me because I'm perfect. So I don't know who you're talking about because duh. And then I did a self-evaluation and I was like, oh, well, maybe, there's some things I could improve on. And I wrote a letter essentially to my team and, just being essentially vulnerable to a point, obviously. But, clarifying for them my promises to them, how I was going to show up in a different light to them. But in addition, I'm going to, I think Tami said something about this, but there's so many back end things that are happening behind the scenes that your employees don't necessarily know that you're doing. I very much clarified to them that the reason I need you to do your job and show up is because not only am I the CEO of this company and assisting you as you need help, but I'm also, talking to the CFO and the CPA and the attorneys and building products out and coming up with systems and exploring new softwares and all of these other items that I'm doing behind the scenes. So when you come to me with a question about something we talked about 27 times, oh, I can't handle it. And that's why I'm getting frustrated. So like by being vulnerable and explaining to them, maybe I've done some things wrong previously and I'm here to support you and I'll come forward and help you. I agree, definitely being vulnerable there, but also, providing them with that clarity of this is why maybe, you've been frustrated in the past or just letting them know the other things that you're on your plate because many of them just don't understand. They've been working their whole lives. They're not business owners. They don't know what you're doing behind the scenes. They're like, well, what is she doing? Hanging out at the pool and just having a snack, and we're over here sweating. And I'm like, little do you know, I haven't gotten up from my desk for the past 7 hours. So it's that kind of helps them, I think. So, and since then, it's been a whole different team. So I agree. Sveta and I had lots of conversations about this, and she rubbed off on me with that vibe. And I love that for
I
me.
also want to know there's a lot of financial stuff behind what I do. So I just want you guys to know that in this like strategic vision is very important too, but
Yes,
people.
love that. So yes, that's my
I'll
two.
just add one of my favorite sayings is that, and it comes back to internal customer care, is a leader should feel as much like an asset to the employee as the employee
Mm,
feels like an asset to the leader.
Mm.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
You're all over with those zingers today. I love
I
it.
know, man.
Okay.
Tammy's wise words.
I know. HR for HR people. Uh, all right. Looking ahead in terms of what happens in 2026, what do company owners and leaders need to be on the lookout for as 2026 is getting ready to start right around the corner? I don't know where this year has gone. It's going by extremely fast. But yeah, we're in the middle of planning season, and one of the most important things to support your company is human capital. So, what do leaders need to pay attention to in 2026?
I'll give you one thing that I think that they need to, and it's AI and regulation. We're currently dealing with that today. I know we talk about it a lot, but HR helps design responsible policies and vet vendors. So make sure you're talking, HR needs to collaborate with their lawyers and their IT teams. And so having an understanding, you don't want to put a policy out or put things together that you don't really understand. You need to have an understanding of what that looks like too, because you're the one that has to hold people accountable or help them understand the why again. But I would say AI and regulating, helping regulation.
Cool. Tammy, you got anything?
Uh, have a plan, be planful.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of small business owners, and this is business reality. We're in the weeds, we're running the business, and we don't always take time to plan. For in our work, big things that we help people with is the status, as you said, 1099 versus W-2 employee, and then exempt and non-exempt. Those are
Mhm.
some common things that you really have to be on top of as an employer, and know what's changing and what's not. Unfortunately, that's our job to know what's changing for
Yeah.
our clients, but uh, laws can change anytime. They can be implemented like on, October 1st, the state decided to do a thing. Most of the time it's January and July, but um, no, try and go, I don't know what I don't know, and find a good resource no
Mhm.
matter what it is. And it doesn't have to be one of us, but you know, have a way that you're going to get alerted when things change if you don't have a way now, I guess is my biggest thing.
Mhm.
Awesome. Katie?
Yeah, I agree fully. I think that multiple items that you just say, I think knowing what you don't know is the best place to be. Hiring the experts in areas that you're not an expert in is what I do consistently. Hire an Aggie, like with all that anybody, obviously, like that's the best move. And also considering the concept of when you're hiring, for example, you're not creating a job description for the person that's currently in the job. You're creating a job description for the person, the job that you need. And then, maybe Susie's in the job and she's doing three different jobs. We're not creating a job description for Susie. We're creating a job description for a bookkeeper because we need a bookkeeper and then we're going to hire for the bookkeeper. So keeping that in mind is like a future growth versus just like kind of creating a job description for the three jobs that this one person is doing, which they probably shouldn't be doing. So I think that future view, growth wise, is a cool thought.
I think the consensus is hire for what you need, not for what you want. And also pay attention. I always like to start my hiring needs through an accountability chart rather than an org chart, because when you
Mhm.
think about accountabilities, it helps you think through what you are accountable for, what the other people in your organization are accountable for, and then it showcases what is missing. So, what are those accountabilities and responsibilities, not duties, but accountabilities that are unattended to? And so that basically allows you to plan for that person that is missing that could potentially get you to the next step. And as Sveta said, there's a lot of financial analysis on the back end to see what can you afford. You don't always need a COO. It is nice to have, but sometimes an ops manager is enough because they can help you build up the systems. And guess what? It also gives you a growth path for that person to one day maybe become a CEO or COO if you invest in them and help them grow within your company.
Mhm.
I will open it up to people who are here who would like to ask any questions that have been on their minds since the beginning of the conversation, and then we will wrap up. Feel free to get off mic or ask in the chat if you are shy. Oh, Beck, we can't hear you for some reason. You're unmuted, but for some reason, love the popcorn machine in the background.
I know, I was looking at that too. I was like, she's in a warehouse for a popcorn machine. She's not making popcorn right now. I'm a little upset about that.
Yeah.
Type it. Yeah.
Cool. While Beck is typing, any closing thoughts? Oh, yes, we do have accountability charts. We can send you a bunch. Yes. Yeah, I'll send it out as part of the follow-up. So some of the tools that I'll be sharing, and Tami, I'll give you the mic in a second. We'll share interview questions. We'll share retention and onboarding checklists, ducks in a row checklists, an I-9 audit tool, and also any other templates that we have here on my list. There's quite a bit of smart hiring, starter kit, HR investigation cheat sheets, all kinds of things that you can use and implement in your business. Lots of freebies today, and I'll add the accountability chart in there too. Tami, go ahead.
I didn't need the mic. I was adding my comment about the popcorn machine and that there's Advil in my background, which is business.
You need that.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Oh, we're having a
Love
movie day.
movie
That's
days.
so nice. Culture. Look at that. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay. You're already people first ones. I love that.
Is it K-pop Demon Hunters? No.
Should
Oh,
be.
dang.
Next one. Add that on the list.
I love that you're having a movie day. I actually would like you to provide some guidance on that because I'm realizing that my team is so young. They have not seen like Office Space and like space. Like, I mean, I'm talking like even new movies. It's scary. So I have a list going and I want to implement that ASAP. So that sounds fantastic.
I love that.
Awesome. Cool. Sveta, Tami, Katie, thank you so much for sharing your brains with us today. This was unbelievably helpful and forward-looking. So appreciate you all. And thank you everybody for attending. There will be a write-up, a video link, and all of this within the next 48 hours when my assistant me is putting all this stuff together. Done putting all of it together.
I love it. And anyone that, if you guys ever have any questions, even, we are our HR for HR, so we all like help each other too. But if there's just one-off questions, please don't feel like I'll speak for myself. Just connect with us. I'd be happy to chat at any point in time. And sometimes you just need to bounce an idea once in a while, and happy to share that knowledge with you guys.
Your information
Absolutely.
will be shared with everybody.
Cool.
Absolutely. We're here to support you. And
Awesome.
Aggie, did you say you're going to write everybody up? You're like, we're going to share a write up.
I said I will do a write-up
Very
of the
HR,
session.
very HR of you. Cool.
I will
Thanks
send
for
you all a report on your performance today, okay?
Yikes.
I'm the first one.
It's real aggressive, but all right. Cool.
It's going to start with thanks for meeting with me today. The commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't even like give us a warning. It was like right into it. It's great.
You
Thanks, y'all. This has been
too good
awesome.
of answers today, so you get dinged for that.
Jeez.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Few
Thanks, all.
minutes with us, and
All right, y'all.
we'll see you on the next one.
See
Bye.
ya.